Monica Tanner, RLT trained relationship coach and host of the Secrets of Happily Ever After podcast, transforms marriages with simple communication, connection, conflict resolution, and commitment strategies. Her mission is to lower the divorce rate and improve marital satisfaction. Through her engaging podcast, new book, Bad Marriage Advice, vibrant social media community, and couples coaching practice, Monica's expert guidance has impacted thousands of couples by helping them ditch resentment and roommate syndrome and get back to living their happily ever after love story. Oof, I'm so excited. Monica and I met a few years back now, which is crazy to think. And I just want us to dive deep into marriage because let's face it, it can be challenging, especially when you get to the 5, the 10, and yes, 15 and 20-year humps. They all have their pluses, but also minuses in terms of how challenging it can be. So I'm really grateful to talk to you. How are you doing first off?
I'm doing great. Just kind of riding the wave. I have 2 adult children and 2 teenagers in the house. So life is exciting and fun. My oldest is getting married, and that's the reason why I wrote the book,
Oh,
because I
wow.
wanted to give all of my mom advice to my son who's about to navigate this crazy world of marriage with his beautiful new bride. And so this was my wedding gift to them.
That's incredible. I didn't know that was the reason why you started this whole project. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's really interesting because he announced that he was ready to get married, and they are so young. They're both 21, but they're so ready to get married. And of course, when you know, right? So we're not going to argue with their knowing, but we're just really excited for them. But I just thought, okay, they're young, they're getting married. They are going to get the worst advice. People from all over the place are going to start telling them how to do marriage, and some of the advice my husband and I got 23 years ago was really bad, and it caused a lot of pain and turmoil in the early stages of our marriage. So I just wanted to sit him down and give him all of my motherly loving advice. And that just turned into this book called Bad Marriage Advice.
I love it. So take me on the journey of when you started this book. What were the things you had seen in so many books? Because I'm sure you read a bunch as a relationship expert. What was something you wanted to avoid for this type of book?
Yeah, so it's really interesting because I started doing research. I'm like, certainly somebody's written this book, right? I mean, bad marriage advice. So lucky I got the website badmarriageadvice.com. Like
Oh,
nobody, people are like, how much did you have to pay for that? I'm like, $7, you guys. It was there. And
wow.
there are no books that are written about bad marriage advice. And yet there is so much bad marriage advice. And you're right. I read books all day. I love it. I listen to tons of podcasts. And there are actual marriage experts out there that I have a ton of respect for that are still giving out really bad marriage advice. So if you want, we can talk about some common bad marriage
Yeah.
advice, but the common thread throughout all the bad marriage advice, and this is how you can do a litmus test for is this good advice or bad advice, is does it engender good quality communication or does it create lazy communication? Because all of the 15 pieces of bad marriage advice that I go through in the book, they all create lazy communication. It's kind of like a cop out. It
Yeah.
makes it so that you don't have to talk about the things that are hard to talk about. So
Yeah. I'm really intrigued now. When does your book come out?
in August.
So exciting. Oh my gosh. So you have to pre-order your copy today because doesn't matter too. Let's say you are newly married. Like this is so helpful. Doesn't matter what stage. Okay, so Dish, when you were young, what was like the worst piece of advice you ever got as a newlywed couple?
Well, I'll tell you the piece of advice that affected my marriage the most was that one that don't ever go to bed angry. Like,
Mm,
it's biblical. People will, like, quote scripture
yep,
about it, like why you shouldn't let the sun go down on your anger and all of those things, but if you really look at it, trying to talk about a difficult topic when you're exhausted is a horrible, horrible idea. But when I was newly married, I kid you not, like, these older couples would come up and they'd be like, "Don't ever go to bed angry, like, good luck," you know? And
totally.
so, I wanted to have this great marriage, and so I remember we would be exhausted. He would be at school all day. I had a full-time job working with kids and parents at a daycare. I was running a daycare, and, we would get in arguments or disagreements late at night, and my husband would just roll over and go to sleep. Like, he was snoring, and I was like, "No, you can't, you can't." I would jostle him awake, and I would, like, start sobbing loudly so that he would wake up and see that I was upset, and it never got us anywhere
Mm,
until I finally realized, like, okay, I stopped and was like, "Why is this so difficult?" And I realized that him being able to go to sleep and just disengage when I was still upset about something, it triggered all of my abandonment issues. And so my mind would just spiral. Like, he would roll over and go to sleep because he knew he just needed to get some rest. And I would be like, great, he's going to wake up in the morning and he's going to get dressed and he's going to be out of here and he's never going to come back. And he's going to be like, this is too much trouble. I'm done with this. Right. And this is where
yeah.
my mind would go. But my husband didn't have any abandonment issues. And so he didn't really understand until I explained to him one day, like, hey, listen, like, I've had some trauma in my past. Like, people who love me, sometimes they would walk out on me, right? And so
Mhm.
when you can just go to bed and I'm still upset, it triggers this abandonment in me. And so after talking about this, we realized, okay, so here's what we can do. Instead of just going to bed without saying anything or just like abandoning each other,
Right.
what if he just said something simple like, hey, I love you so much, but I'm way too tired to hash this out tonight. Let me get some sleep and we'll return to it in the morning. And then I was like, oh, awesome. And all of a sudden, I could get some sleep. And every single morning, whenever this happened, he would roll over, snuggle me, like wrap me in a big hug, and be like, I am so sorry I was grumpy last night. I was just so tired or whatever. Like, I don't even know why we're fighting. And sometimes I would be like, you're right. I have no idea why. I love you. And let's have a great day. Or sometimes I'd be like, you said some things that were really awful. And I just want to let you know how I feel. And we could talk about it. Right. But we always did in the morning. And that's what's most important is that figure out how you can both get a good night's rest and things look so different in the morning.
That's really interesting. I've heard that advice, took it to heart too, but I love the idea of having this communication with your partner and decide, like, hey, I love you. I'll talk to you in the morning, or I can't do this at this moment because I'm exhausted. It's so much better. I don't know. That's really interesting. Never looked at it that
Yeah.
way.
Taking a break is a great tool to have in your tool belt anytime you're having difficult discussion and one of you gets triggered. Like, before you say something you don't mean or try to just power through and bulldoze each other, it's great to be like, you know what? I'm feeling really activated, really triggered. Like, this is really hitting me really strongly. I need to take a 20-minute break and then we can come back and talk about this, or an hour, or however much time you think you need to be able to go take a walk or listen to some music or do some deep breathing, right? That is a great tool to have in your back pocket anytime you feel activated. So late at night, it's hard to think clearly. It's hard to have a good perspective. So just do yourself a favor and be like, I love you. I need some sleep. Let's return to this in the morning.
I also feel when you're exhausted, mean things slip out of your mouth from personal
Yeah.
experience, and you don't mean it necessarily. You're just trying to drive your point.
Yeah. Sometimes you're just
Yeah,
tired and you're nitpicking and you're not thinking clearly about like this is the person that I love most of anyone in the entire world. You're just kind of like you're just on edge, you know? So the
right.
best thing you can do for yourself and for your marriage is just go to bed.
Is there anything that you felt was a hindrance through your marriage because these myths kind of took over what you started to believe in yourself?
I think one of the most damaging myths is this idea that if you found the right person, they're never going to hurt you. Because for a lot of reasons, actually, but the one that's like most important, I think, is that we are attracted to people that are perfectly designed to help us heal our childhood wounding. So, my mentor and teacher, Terry Real, who's the creator of RLT, you read as you read my bio, RLT trained, right? He calls this the mysticism of marriage. So, we are attracted to people who, like, have you ever heard we marry our unfinished business?
Yeah.
That is kind of the law of attraction. We're attracted to people who are perfectly designed to stick us in our wounds and raw spots where it hurts. A lot of people will think like, "Oh, I must have married the wrong person because love's not supposed to be hard. It's not supposed to hurt. Like my partner's not supposed to trigger all these like really difficult things inside of me." But here's the reality. There's hundreds of people on the planet who probably wouldn't have ever triggered those wounds for you, but guess what? You are not attracted to those people. They just walked right on by. You were attracted to someone who is enough like your experience growing up that they would have the ability to then trigger you, wound you, stick you with the burning spear right where it hurts. And this is for good reason. It gives you the opportunity to heal. Not that your partner is going to heal you or make you whole, but that they're going to give you the opportunity now to heal yourself. So, in best case scenario, and most of us, what we do is because we're all so different, is we marry someone who's enough like what we grew up with to be familiar and to be attractive to us. But hopefully, that person that you chose has resources that your family of origin didn't have. So, if you had a really over controlling mother, or if you had an absent father, or something like that, you're going to be attracted to someone who is similar and is going to trigger some of those similar feelings for you. But perhaps, like my husband, he has no abandonment issues. So once I was able to explain to him, I feel like you're going to leave me when you walk out on an important discussion or you fall asleep and start snoring when I'm bawling, crying, right? I feel like you've disconnected and you're just going to leave me. He has the resources to be like, guess what? I'm not going anywhere. I chose you. I choose you. I'm here for the long haul. You can go to sleep and feel confident that in the morning we're gonna figure it out.
Mm. Wow, that's so beautiful. It's the reality too. I think that might be hard for people to hear, especially, let's say they had something growing up, like you said, with abandonment issues, and then their partner is, in fact, I just feel people in general, like hurt people is usually the concept that comes up. But I don't necessarily believe that's true. I believe that people are made to challenge, but also, like you said, heal one another in the end. Maybe that's too optimistic, but I like to.
Well, I don't think people heal each other. I think people give each other the opportunity to heal themselves because
Oh,
no one can
that's
heal you.
that's
But you're
yeah.
right. It's like we're attracted to people that are familiar to us. And
Mhm.
typically that is, where our wounding comes from. And so these people give us the opportunity to look at our wounding and to heal it. But if you can do that in the bounds of a loving relationship where I'm not perfect and my partner's not perfect, but we have a lot of patience for each other and love and support, and you can communicate what you need to each other, then you have this perfect environment to be able to heal yourself.
Totally. Now, what about people that Well, I'm going to speak for myself. So we just had a child. She's now 1 years old and great healthy communication. But because we're tired, I would say sometimes things don't go according to plan and maybe come off more harsh because of that. What are some strategies that new parents can use to improve their communication with one another?
I would say probably one of the most important things I would talk to new parents about is to keep micro disappointments micro. So, like a big temptation, I think, especially when you have a small child, is to overgeneralize something that happens. So let's say you're exhausted and you've been up all night feeding the baby and you just need a little bit of sleep and she's got a dirty diaper and you ask your partner to change it and he just like totally blows you off. He's like watching the game and he's like, I will in a minute. I will in a minute, to the point where you're like, she's going to get a diaper rash. I'll just do it. And you're pissed about it. Right. The temptation is to be like, "He never helps around the house. He doesn't care about me. He doesn't care about his kid. All he's super lazy and all he cares about is his sports," right? And you're, like, completely overgeneralizing an occurrence,
Yeah.
which now that is a big occurrence, like, you definitely wanna deal with that occurrence, but
Mhm.
you don't wanna over dramatize it. Like, it's on a random Tuesday at 3 o'clock. My husband didn't change the baby's diaper, and that's disappointing. Relationships are disappointing, but that doesn't mean that he's never gonna change a diaper and he doesn't care, and this whole relationship is a giant sham, right? So, this links to another piece of bad marriage advice, which you hear all the time, which is don't sweat the small stuff. Like, you could go either way. You could overgeneralize it and be like, my husband is a lazy a-hole and he never helps. Or you could be like, oh, it's just a little thing. I'm just going to sweep that under the rug because I don't want to rock the boat. Like, it's not a big deal. I had to change the diaper. I always change the diaper, but whatever, right? You want to communicate it, but you want to do it in a really kind and like logical way instead of being over dramatizing it and being like, you never help and I'm really mad. And you want to, I call it, there's a process I teach and it's called the feedback wheel. And you want to give your partner feedback, but not while he's still watching the game and not while you're really upset about it because you just had to change your 15th stinky diaper of the day. You want to just wait for a good time. You want to contract with them to find a time where, hey, yesterday I was really frustrated because I asked you to change the baby's diaper and you kept putting it off. And I was worried that she was going to get a diaper rash. And so I ended up doing it. But I want to talk to you about it. Is this a good time? And then you can kind of go from there. Just recognize that part of being in a relationship with another imperfect human is that things are going to happen and you're going to be disappointed. The important thing is, how do you deal with those small disappointments after the fact?
Totally. Yeah, I could definitely relate to that. And sometimes I might be watching something too. And it goes both ways. Like our
Yeah.
partner might be feeling it. Maybe they've had a long day working, and maybe me, I've had a long day working plus spending time all day with babies. And you just don't realize what the other person's thinking. I love that you said we should not say don't sweat the small stuff because eventually it turns into big explosions.
Exactly. And the point is to deal with the seeds before they become weeds, right? Because the small stuff will become the big stuff if you don't deal with it. So definitely don't sweat the small stuff. You want to sweat the small stuff,
Yeah.
but you want to do it in a kind and loving, respectful way. So the kind of moniker, and I talked about this on my Instagram today. I did a whole segment about remembering love. So when you approach your partner about a small thing, you want to do it remembering one, who you're talking to. You're talking to your partner, the person you love more than anyone in the entire world. And you're approaching them because you want things to be better for both of you. So remembering love has two parts. Remember who you're talking to and remember why you're talking to them.
Mm. Who you're talking to and why you're talking to them. That's important. I love all, like, some of this is so simple, but none of us do it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Life is busy and it's
mhm.
stressful, right? And that's
Yeah,
exactly what you're all about. It's like, listen, yes, life is busy and it's stressful, and it's easy to just let our emotions take control and go with our knee-jerk reaction. Like, we wanna just yell and scream and be like, "Why are you not helping?" Right?
right.
But if we take a couple of deep breaths, which I know you teach, and we like center ourselves, ground ourselves, and who is this person that I'm about to address? Are they like my punching bag, or are they the person I love more than anyone in the entire world? And am I
Mm,
talking to them because I want them to get how pissed I am and how much of a dirtbag they are and how much they let me down right now? Or do I want to convey to them that there is a better way, and like, here's how we can work together better? So it's good to ground yourself and like really answer those two questions before you approach your partner.
amazing. So the purpose of bad marriage advice, obviously, it was to share all the things you learned from horrible advice that has been given to you. But are there like seeds of hope or things that you have found to really work in there as well?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the anecdote to all the bad marriage advice is learning how to communicate better with each other. And
Mhm.
that's the reality of it. So every single chapter starts with a piece of bad marriage advice that either I received or the clients that I work with really struggle with. So, I mean, I've now been working with couples for over 7 years. And so I can see the little things that create big problems for them.
Mm,
And in the book, so we'll go through bad marriage advice, what's wrong with this mindset, why it's such bad marriage advice, and then here's how to help you communicate better so that you're not like falling prey to this really awful mindset. Like, I'll give you a few more, like divorce is not an option. Operating like divorce is not an option is not a good mindset to take into your marriage for so many reasons.
right. What do you feel about prenuptial agreements?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see a problem with them at all. I think that the reality that a marriage isn't permanent is real. And so if there's a lot of assets and things like that that are going to get really sticky if the two of you break up, then by all means do a prenup. I mean, the goal in a marriage is to create a scenario that you both choose and want to be a part of. And so if you're constantly doing that and you create a really great marriage, then the prenup, it doesn't matter. There's no point of a prenup, right?
Nothing. Yeah.
But operating as if divorce is not an option creates no motivation for either partner to be better, to try harder, to put any effort into the marriage, right? So I
Mhm.
actually work with this husband. His wife won't come to therapy, she refuses. But why would she? Because they operate under the idea that he can't get to heaven without her. And so they got married under this impression that now we're locked in. Like, literally, we cannot get a divorce. So, what motivation does she have to work on the marriage? He's totally miserable and he's a great guy. I mean, he just has a few requests. But on her end, she's like, he's stuck with me. Like, why would I even work on the marriage? Right. So,
Mm,
that right there is creating a horrible scenario for both of them. They're not intimate. They don't enjoy being around each other. Their poor children are seeing this as, and they're like, what the way they operate in their mind is we're locked in. We made a commitment to each other 20 years ago and we're not going back on that. So now they're just stuck. They're stuck in a marriage of obligation versus creating a marriage that they both choose, that their kids see as so special and worth working for.
yeah. That's crazy to think about, though, 20 years down the line, and maybe all of this has been there, but they were too afraid to actually discuss it, which always comes back to communication. I'm starting to see a little bit of a pattern, but
The anecdote to bad marriage advice or misery or complacency is always better communication.
what do you feel is a big communication issue between most couples in the current day?
Yeah. I think that couples start their marriage with great intentions. They want to have this great fairy tale relationship. And sometimes they start with this fairy tale idea that if they love me, they would just know how to make me happy and I shouldn't have to tell them, right? And that's a bad piece of marriage advice. Definitely don't follow that, right? So in the book, I teach you how to make requests in your marriage. But I think marriage starts with the best of intentions. And what happens is couples don't have really good communication skills. And so they'll start out kind of either modeling or doing the opposite of whatever they saw growing up, and it doesn't go well for them. So they'll create a dynamic in their marriage that is unhealthy with communication. And so what happens is they'll start to withdraw. They'll be like, well, when I bring up this topic of whether it's sex or money or how to raise the kids or how often to go see the in-laws or how to celebrate Christmas, whatever this touchy topic or topics are, when they get brought up in the marriage, it doesn't go well. And so then they'll withdraw and they'll stop bringing it up and they'll start sweeping things under the rug and they'll start not wanting to rock the boat. And so then it just kills communication. So you either have really unhealthy patterns of communication or no communication at all. And people start to feel very trapped in their marriage and they start to feel like, well, I can't talk to them about this because they're just going to blow up and freak out or they're going to completely disengage and it doesn't go well. And so then they just stop communicating with one another and they start to just create their lives so that they're kind of living as roommates and they're not connecting and they're not being
Mhm.
intimate with each other. And after 20 years, you're like, I don't even know this person. Can't talk to them about the things that are important to me. Most people will raise their kids and then that's when they come to see me because they're like, we've raised our kids and now we don't talk about anything. We don't even really like each other. So do we live out the rest of our lives with somebody that we don't really like, or do we start over and try again? Right. And that's the
Yeah.
crossroads that a lot of couples find themselves when they've lived 20 years of their marriage not talking about the things that are really important to them.
Wow. Yeah, that is the years of non-communication, and also probably both parties feel alone because they feel like they're in a marriage with just themselves.
Mhm. Yeah. And it's really hard. You got married so that you would have a companion, right? And when you
Right.
feel really alone in your marriage and like you don't have anyone to talk to, it's a difficult place to be in. I feel for my couples that feel that way.
Now you mentioned requests. Is there something in addition to making requests that will get these couples out of, I don't want to say the friend zone, but like you said, the roommate zone? Like, yeah, how do you even work on that with them?
Yeah, I think one of the most important things is creating a mechanism of repair. It's like learning how to repair because it's not that happy couples don't fight, because all couples disagree or fight, right? I worry the most about the couples that never fight about anything because I'm like, maybe they just don't care about anything and they're both
Yeah.
completely disengaged. It's easier to teach a couple how to fight better than to care about something, right? So all couples fight, but the happy couples, they have a mechanism of repair. They know how to repair after conflict. They know how to show up to the marriage in all of their glory, meaning like they can make their opinions known. They have preferences. They have dreams that they're after, right? Our podcast, right? It's my vision. My husband doesn't see it or doesn't understand it, but it's my vision, right? And so
Totally.
wanting his support is a dream of mine, and I have to be able to communicate that to him. And sometimes we're not going to see eye to eye because he doesn't get it. And a lot of times I don't get how he spends his spare time and the things that he's super passionate about. So
Totally.
there's always going to be disagreements, there's always going to be fights, but the happiest couples, they know how to repair. They know how to get curious about each other. They know how to communicate their love and affection and turn towards each other in times of challenge. Those are the things that make happy couples happy. And so it's being able to make requests, knowing how to repair after conflict, and just communicate your dreams and your visions and your goals with each other.
Something that I have realized in my own marriage is that, well, both of us are creative types. And I don't want to say that to take a back seat on each other. So take a back seat so the other person can go after their dreams fully. But I definitely have realized since taking on the mom role that I've been okay to be like, you know what? Like, I wrote the music, I've done the podcast. Sometimes it's okay to slow down and let my partner shine. What is that reason? And because this is a new
Yeah.
feeling for me. I was very independent go-getter, like, all my vision or nothing. It
Well,
was
there's times and seasons, right? And motherhood is this beautiful, beautiful, like, you can't explain it to anyone until they've actually experienced it, like bringing life into the world and how that just changes you. But biologically, that infant can't survive without you. And so, you having the desire to be there for her and to raise her and take a little bit of a back seat, not forever, hopefully, not forever, but just for a time so that you can care for that baby is beautiful and biologically perfect, right?
Mhm.
But as long as that you keep communicating with your partner and making room for both of you to shine, right? So, but for a season, you have a 1-year-old. And so like right now, this season of my life is about caring for her and supporting you. And I'm so happy I choose that, right?
Right.
But there's gonna come a time where I'm like, "Hey, you know what? This infant needs her dad more now."
Yeah.
And, like, I'm feeling the pull and tug now to really go follow the thing. And, it's hard to explain this to moms, but I work with moms on this all the time, is that you're really doing your child a huge and wonderful service to show them what's possible, right? For you to take a back seat for a little bit and care for her, but then in a couple of years to pick up where you left off and honor that drive and that passion that you have inside of you is showing your beautiful daughter what's possible. And so for you to suppress that would be a disservice to her. Never apologize for all of the things that are within you and listen to yourself because like you know the different seasons and you know what's right.
Yeah. I was like being honest with my audience too, because there have been a lot of feelings and all these hormones are new to me. And just honoring the season and realizing it's okay to say, well, the business right now is on pause. That was really difficult for me to say that because that was my number one baby besides like my dog, longest time, and building the relationship with my husband now. So, yeah, it's just interesting, all the seasons of life. And I think of also the people that are becoming empty nesters and how difficult that can be for them as well. And now the relationship takes on a whole new branch that you get to explore.
Yeah, parenting adult children is no joke. And so the most recent thing that's happening is so funny. My son gets married in 10 days, and my family and my closest friends are just right now receiving their invitations to the wedding. Now, my type A personality is like, those were supposed to go out a month ago. Like, what are you guys doing? Right. But they are adults and parenting adult children is very different. Like, I have no control over when they chose to send out those wedding invites. Right. So, all
Right.
I can do is like email my family. I'm like, okay, the wedding is May 3rd. Like, here's what's happening. Start making your travel plans. Like, you can't explain to a 20-year-old, 21-year-old boy that people have to like plan for a wedding in May in Utah, right? Like, it's like they're coming from all over the country and they've known for months because I communicated, but I was hoping that they would have their wedding invites out much sooner than 10 days before the wedding. So, yeah, parenting adult children is very different. You kind of have to let them do their thing,
Mhm.
but you love them either way, and they're gonna learn their lessons how they're gonna learn them, and you're just gonna be here to be a soft landing and a sounding board, and that's about most of what you get to do with your adult children.
When you first started to work with clients and you were developing like, your own system or strategies of relationship communication, what was the hardest challenge for you?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think originally I was really timid to work with couples who felt on the brink of divorce. I was like, "Whoa, that's heavy. I can't do it.
Mm,
Like, I don't know what to do with that." Right. But through RLT, relational life therapy, that's actually kind of was the birthplace of it. Terry Real was really good at helping couples on the brink of divorce decide whether divorce was the right option or create a workable scenario where they could get back into
mm,
a good, happy, thriving marriage. So, yeah, I think my biggest challenge was when people had real problems, which is when they sought help. I was kind of like, "Oh, no. I don't know how to deal with real problems." It was just a matter of finding the training and really educating myself on things like adultery and infidelity and abuse and
mm.
addictions, real problems that real people face that makes marriage really, really difficult. Because I like to talk about the communication stuff, which is really important, but there's also really big issues that people face as well. When you've gotten to that point where you're considering divorce, it's bad, right? I mean, you have years upon years of resentments and bad feelings, and now you're not seeing each other in a good light at all. And so you're working with some pretty big stuff, and you don't want to create any more damage or hurt in either individual. And so I think being really well trained and knowledgeable in those areas is really important. So I think my biggest challenge was feeling like I had enough training in those areas to be able to journey with people through their most difficult
Right.
trials.
Adultery is a big one. I've found that out from many friends, from many clients over the years. What can people do to get past that initial conversation? Because once the cat's been out of the bag, there's no going back from it.
Yeah. Well, there's emotional infidelity and there's physical infidelity and there's sexual infidelity, right? So there's lots of forms of betrayal. And it's Esther Perel who talks about most people are going to have 3 or 4 marriages, hopefully to the same person. And really, the work to do after some form of deep betrayal or infidelity is to really figure out what it was that was kind of missing in the relationship and recreate the relationship. So it's either going to be, are you going to use this as a catalyst to recreate something special between the two of you? Or are you going to, I mean, a lot of people stay together after infidelity. And it's just recognizing, is that what both partners want? Are both partners willing to rebuild after that and create a healthier relationship? Or do they want to move on to different partners? And that happens as well. And it's really a matter of, can we rebuild together or are we going to pick up the pieces and rebuild on our own?
Said something interesting about 3 different marriages to the same person.
Mhm.
What does that mean? That was my first time hearing that. I know you said it, Esther plural.
She's a great marriage expert. She wrote the book Mating in Captivity, and it's all about keeping that passion alive throughout a long-term relationship. And it's not easy, right? I mean, to keep that fire, that passion alive over many, many, many years.
Mhm.
But yeah, it you're people change, right? So, like, another one of the myths is, "You're not the person I married." Well, of course they're not the person you married, right? People change, like, I'm gonna be different after this conversation with you, just by virtue of our experiences, minute by minute, we're recreating ourselves all the time, And a lot of marriages go through transitions, like where one person goes through a faith transition. So maybe they believe spiritually very differently than when they got married. And so one partner will have to deal with, like, we got married under the circumstance that we both believed in this way. And now one partner is completely changing their belief. And so that is kind of like a new marriage. You have to get to know each other all over again, right? After you have children, or maybe you take a new job and move to a different state. There's all types of transitions that marriages go through where it's really important to keep those lines of communication open, to stay curious about each other and how you're adapting and changing and growing. And that creates a new marriage, right? So you and your husband were married for a certain amount of years before your daughter came into the picture. And now that your daughter's in the picture, you're experiencing kind of a brand new marriage. And when your daughter's a teenager, it's going to be all brand new again, right? And then when your kids leave home. And so there's all kinds of transitions that create this opportunity to rebuild a marriage and or have a new marriage. And infidelity is unfortunately one of those times where you can look at the marriage and be like, do we like who we are, how we show up in this marriage, who we are for each other, and what we're doing here?
It's interesting that you said too that a lot of people choose to stay after infidelity.
Hmm. Yeah.
I have had such a great conversation with you today. Like, I feel like I gained some good advice for myself to take with me, and I'm sure so has our audience. Where can people pre-order your book?
You can go to badmarriageadvice.com and find out about the book, or you can go to my website, monicatanner.com, and learn more about the podcast and how to work with me. And I'm sure there'll be a link to the book on there as well.
Of course. And then I always love to end with this question. How has stress saved your life?
Oh, that's an amazing question. I think stress is like a canary in the coal mine, right? Like an indicator that something exciting or is about to happen, right? And so I think for me, one of the most stressful times in my life where I was facing the reality that I can't earn love from anywhere. And so I think all growing up and as a young mother, I felt like I had to earn love. Again, my husband never dealt with anything like that. He just knows that there's enough love to go around for everyone. And so I think one of the most stressful times was postpartum after my second baby. And I just felt like my entire life was falling apart and I wasn't showing up anywhere very well. And so I got this debilitating anxiety. It was so stressful. I couldn't take care of myself. I couldn't take care of my babies. Certainly wasn't taking care of my home or my husband or my business. And my husband actually sent me home to Texas. So I live in Idaho, and he sent me home to Texas to live with my mom. And I had to really face this reality that I can't be perfect. I can't earn love. I have to just be me. I have to be able to ask for help. And that changed my entire outlook on life, how I approached everything. And believe it was so much stress that my body couldn't handle it. And instead of walking out and burning everything to the ground, I learned how to handle my stress better.
Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. It's not a good feeling to have about earning love. And I know that this can come from the past and we carry it with us and we don't even realize it until something like having your second baby and all of the emotions that just come with it. Like you don't even realize people that have had not had a baby yet or are thinking about it. It's amazing, but there's also a lot of reflection that comes with it too. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Of course.
And I hope that people will go grab your book, immediately pre-order it, guys. And oh, amazing podcast. Go listen to Happily Ever After. It's awesome. I listen for advice and for just good conversations. You have wonderful guests on there.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. We need to get you on the podcast to help couples deal with stress.
And I would love to talk about that. I have been trying to use my own soul system for my life and helping all the people around me. So, yeah, I appreciate that. That would be great.
Of course.
Well, guys, remember to be kind to yourself and speak well to yourself on this self love journey. Until next time, take care.